In terms of typing, programming languages fall into two categories: static languages like C++, C Sharp, and Java, and dynamic languages like JavaScript, Ruby, and Python. In static languages, when declaring a variable, we need to specify its type. For example, in C Sharp, when declaring this variable, we need to set its type to an integer. So with this, the type of this variable will always be an integer. When we compile this program, our compiler knows that students count is an integer. So if we accidentally try to set it to, let's say, a Boolean later on, the compiler will complain. This is how static languages work. In dynamic languages like JavaScript and Python, we don't have this behavior. So we don't set a type when defining a variable. We just define a variable by setting it to a value. So in dynamic languages, the type of a variable is determined at runtime. Now here, if you hover your mouse over students count, you can see this is an integer. So when working on a large complex program, if you want to know the type of a variable, you can simply hover your mouse over it. We also have this built-in function called type. We can pass a variable or an object to it, like students count, and then print this on the console. So let's run this program. You can see the type of students count is a class of integer. What is this? Python is an object-oriented language, so here we have the concept of classes. If you're not familiar with classes, don't worry, I'm going to talk about them in detail later in the course. All I want you to know now is that in Python, we have a class called int that represents integers. So all integers are instances of this class. Let's take a look at a few more examples. So here in this interactive shell, let's look at the type of a float. Once again, it's a class called float. Let's look at type of a Boolean. This is also a class called bool. And finally, let's look at type of a string. That's a class called stir. So here's the takeaway. Python is a dynamic language, which means the type of variables are determined at runtime as opposed to compile time.